time. Let's come on back. Problem of the day. Problem of the day. So, can anybody tell me what could be some potential benefits of perennial rice seeds? What could be a potential benefit of perennial rice seeds?
How about cost efficiency?
Cost efficiency. Describe it a little bit more.
Okay, so if you're only planting the rice for once every 5 years or something like that,
Right.
you don't have to buy as many materials to plant it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I got it. Okay, and then who can tell me another potential benefit? Another benefit of perennial rice seeds?
Kind of on the same line, it saves time and labor.
And labor costs also, this time, okay. Time, labor, all kinds of money.
Do you have more money to buy a better pesticide?
So they can take better care of their, okay? Anybody else have any potential other benefits? What do they talk about the land quality on the website?
They said that by developing a perennial seed, it could limit deforestation and erosion.
Which is something that you were worried about, Kristen. Yeah, it's interesting. Who here had a prior knowledge that you brought into your conversation about seeds? So Sharon has an expertise. Is that your husband works for who?
Well, he does some contract work for Monsanto.
So she comes in with prior experience with it. That will affect the conversation, and she can add her expertise. So sometimes with your conversations, you never know where the expertise comes from. Does that make sense? And that the fact that Kristen, for some reason, knows a lot about crops. You know more than a lot of other people. You know more than other stuff. Does anybody here have a garden at home? Yeah. Did that affect you at all? Is how you were thinking gardening? Anybody eat a lot of rice? Did that affect at all what you thought about it? I am curious, why would this professor be having unexpected opposition to his work? He's so excited working in his lab over there, coming up with what he thinks is going to be a way to save world hunger, and here he is being stopped. Yes, ma'am.
He's a scientist and not a marketing, political, economic expert. And
Right.
when you come up with a new product, you have to be really careful and see who your competition might be and what kind of opposition you might have.
So who might oppose potentially somebody who's going to change the way the market of rice seeds works?
People who sell rice seeds.
The people who sell rice seeds.
That's what they come up with. He also said that people that are against GMOs could possibly.
Yes, also you could have people who are against GMOs. It could be a completely different group actually. You could have people from one side of the political spectrum to the other side of the political spectrum because you're changing the kind of rice that we're going to be eating. This is not naturally forming rice.
Could be foreign governments too. Like we were talking about the ones that, well, I don't know if it's true, but there's stories about foreign governments that receive aid, like food, and they don't give it to the people.
That's right.
So they might be pissed because they're trying to control their people through hunger.
That is a major issue, and if I were the social studies teacher, I'd go way off on that because North Korea and certain countries control the amount of food, and this would empower the farmers to have more control over their products. Yep. I did a lot of reading on this. It was interesting. I never really thought, I just thought it was so cool, and then I wanted to know why, and I read up on it. And how could this fit into a biology lesson? How could this kind of conversation fit into a biology lesson? It could lead into any number of conversations. What could be one possible conversation?
You can just be talking about botany, genetics, why biology is pertinent to your actual life.
Absolutely, yeah, and where jobs are. But yes, absolutely. Anybody else have a way that it could go to a biology lesson?
I remember Paul and Dr. Arlison was talking about ethics being a thing. You totally go into ethics with that too. I don't know how you assess because I remember saying that was hard, but I think you can talk about ethics of food, poverty.
Yep. Well, I mean, you can assess this kind of conversation. Think of about a way that I could assess this. How could I assess the conversation that you just had? I do? I can have one sheet due per group. You know, there are ways to assess it. I think Cynthia and Amanda and Rochelle and Edmund were talking about what happens when, and Kristen, you brought it up that when you plant things, you have to plant them in a certain way so that they don't have cross-pollination going on. So it could lead into your conversation about mixing different lines. They could talk about, I mean, there are a million ways. Why could this work into a chemistry lesson? I do believe that when he's developing his seeds, he's using not just biology, he's using chemistry to figure out what the different ways are to genetically modify seeds.
For that, we need to know chemistry.
That's right. So you'd have to see whether that would work into something that you're particularly working on in chemistry. Is to bring in, you know, problems that, you know, you think on the surface are biological, but they're really chemical. And then math teachers, what can math teachers use with this? What kind of analyses could you do with your students? Could you use the poverty rates in the world? Could you look at farm subsidy rates? Could you just think of different things that you could look at in terms of more and more ways to have kids use real life mathematical calculations to figure out how poverty would go down? I mean, there are ways that you can do this. I love it when math and biology teachers work together, that, you know, you tell, the biology teacher tells the math teacher what he or she is working on, and then the math teacher can use that stuff in whatever math they're working on. It's nice to have cross-pollination between math and science. It works. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, say you wanted to do packet work. I mean, you wanted a day that was going to be relatively easy for you, and yet you still wanted to have the kids do a lot of interactive activities. Well, it so happens that PBS is my friend again, and PBS has a wonderful, wonderful website on bridges and domes and spheres. And on your handout, I'd like you to go, I've given on the agenda, on the other side of the agenda, I have a whole series of activities that we're about to do, and it all comes from PBS. I did not have to come up with anything on my own. PBS is my friend. So first of all, we're going to try a lab. It's a very basic lab. After you do the lab, you're going to do a series of activities on PBS's website. You're going to do a couple force demonstrations online. You're going to do a little research on bridges. And then you're going to do the lab again to see whether there's a difference doing the lab before or at the end. And so if in each group, can somebody right now agree to be the supply provider? So Sharon, Kristen, Timothy, Amanda, could you go get a set of supplies? One red cup, your little red cup, and everything in the cup you need, and the piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper. Timothy, take it. Exactly. Perfect. Why do I need to have these preset? Tell me, why do I need to have these materials preset? Yep, it makes it much easier, and then the supply provider's responsibility is to make sure it goes back into that situation at the end, so that next period I can have it start all over again. The problem is going to be with the pennies, so that's why I have the cup, so that when the pennies get opened and they don't go back into their neat little thing, potentially at least a little red cup can hold my pennies. So what you're going to do without any explanation is you're going to follow the directions on this handout, and you're going to build a bridge. Can you build a bridge that holds 100 pennies using 1 sheet of paper and up to 5 paper clips? The other things that you're going to need before you touch it is you have a ruler in there, you have 100 pennies, scissors, and you need 2 books. So take 2 of the classroom management books, because they'll be the same size, 2 of the same book. And then I want you in your group to make a prediction, 2 of the same books. It will make life much easier. I have paper clips in the supplies are already in there. Good enough. first of all, in your group, you're gonna make a prediction how you think a bridge can be constructed in order to support the dead load and the live load of the pennies. So you're gonna need to figure out for me what dead load and live load are without intuitively.
Just explain it.
Exactly. And then I want you to try it out. I want you to start building and brainstorming before you start actually doing it. You're going to have to rule, using your ruler, the bridge has to have two supports that are 20 centimeters apart. Remember that the space below the bridge must be clear to allow boats to pass. This is a bridge in which boats are going to pass under. And then you're going to test it until and then you're going to record and tell me how many pennies you can have hold. The goal is 100, but if you can't. And then you will explain how well your bridge supported its dead load and the live load. Was the bridge as strong as you thought it would be? Where did it fail? And then later on, we're going to build it again. So we're going to build it now, and then we're going to try a second time. So does anybody have any questions before you start building the bridge? In each group, I need to have the supply manager. I need to have a timer, because I'm going to give you 20 minutes to build this bridge. I need the activity leader, the person who's going to keep the activity going. And I need the scribe, the person who's going to take notes and document the process. So can you figure out who everybody is?
It's on the
handout for today.
leader, scribe, timer.
Yeah, right there. So once you have those set, you have you now have 20 minutes to try building this bridge. You ready?
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Good, 20.
You have 20 minutes.
What?
Before you start doing it, let's have some conversations about what you need to do. You also have, don't forget paper clips. You have
Well,
you have
these
5
have to
paper
be,
clips.
whatever
Don't forget that you have 5
required.
paper clips that you can use as part of it.
Which must stand each
That's right.
for 20 centimeters. Yeah, we got both this.
And if you want to use binders, you can use binders. You can make your bridge as tall as you want.
We need a way.
Right here on number 7.
Yeah.
On the
But
way you
you
give
can
it today.
attach it, but you can use some other
So
ways.
you have a leader, a scribe, a timer, and the supply manager. And you need to alternate. Alright?
Yeah, before we go. Yeah.
Alright. Guess I'll be here too.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way you told this, the more, so that should be.
Yeah, it's just used to measure. They're supposed to be 8 inches apart, and then we use the paper clips.
Yeah, we might find
We use the paper clips to hold it.
Oops.
right. You don't have to worry about making.
Oh, it can't be taped.
So before you do this, I want you to try it, and then we're gonna do it before we do the lab, and then we're gonna do that after we do it.
Oh, I
You can do it that way.
try it out.
You're gonna try it out, and then you're gonna do the material, and then you're gonna do it again, and see if you can build a better bridge. Yeah, not yet. I want you to do an intuitive. I want you to do an intuitive. The goal is to do an intuitive bridge.
It doesn't, I was just saying you can't tape it.
So we're supposed to do this. Yeah. We're gonna. You do one more and all that.
It says our paper bridge must span 20 centimeters, about 8 inches, that's what I can see. Because or else like, bam, you're dead.
Can you put the paper across?
The ruler you can use. Can we use the ruler and you, does it say?
It says that it has to be that it's supposed to be a paper bridge.
It's a paper bridge, yes, but it doesn't say how you, it doesn't, read it, does it say you can't?
No, but I think you're supposed, I don't know, according to me,
The
you're
bridge
supposed
must
to get
support
creative.
the bridge has to support its own weight, as well as the weight of anything placed on it, like the pennies. Your paper bridge must, it's a paper bridge, but it doesn't say what you can, must span 20 centimeters, about 8 inches. The size of your bridge will rest on 2 books, it cannot be taped or attached to it. But they still give you 5 clips, ruler, 2 books, and at least 100 pennies.
Let's see what we got.
Tape the edges of the paper, the two, and then you put the pins.
Now it has to be able to hold the books. 100 pennies. How many pennies you get to hold?
You could paper clip the edges of the. This is right.
Cause I think you need to paper clip the paper to itself as you roll it.
You're allowed to use the ruler.
If I were doing it in this class, I wouldn't allow them to use the ruler.
Take the ruler
That
out.
way, you have to be more creative.
Yeah.
It'll be able to go under.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry, but the boat just crashed. You can take the pennies out, you don't have to have them bound like that.
I mean, it
Use
does
that
say
to put
loaded.
together, maybe.
You want to load pennies, I want to see how it.
That way,
Because I think
We
it's
can load it 50 at a time and it's
because
still
it wasn't
works, so.
said you can't use it. I think people just to make assumptions. So I think it's okay to use it, just to say.
I think the whole point,
They told me, well, we can't
so
say
that they
this,
find out where
we
the
can't.
limit is.
And so I think sometimes we could just put everything, but I'm sure we don't have to use the ruler. I understand you would, but I would make it clear if you weren't gonna allow them to use it.
Yeah, I think it's not clear here, so. But they're looking for a dead load and a live load. So, even, I guess the ruler becomes part of the live load. But if you have to load 1 penny at a time, as opposed to the pennies,
Alright, we
them
have
out.
to take pictures.
Right.
Yeah, it says on the number 3, we're doing.
Seems so easy just to.
yeah, from 12 to 4, it's the same thing.
Engineering spies.
They'll be able to propel themselves across.
I think you're like trying to see part of it.
There are bridges that are tunnels, aren't there? Yeah, but I've never done the bridge.
traffic? What is it called? I saw it. Yeah, really interesting.
You only have one piece of paper?
Oh, no, I'm not. We're using like this sheet of paper to do the whole like. We'll see, it's really changing. So,
It has to be a certain span.
Oh, there's no.
it says no more.
The must, no, it says, your
Oh, it says,
must span 20 centimeters.
Hey,
Okay. We solved it in like 5 minutes. We solved it in like.
Did you went online and looked? Yes. Is all of them are in there?
That's a really good idea.
Well, my idea was to have that.
That
would be.
Probably would have sustained a lot more.
Yeah.
We do like a car would go. You can take the pennies out of them.
oh, the roll.
Yeah.
That was here.
Tractor trailer.
Yeah, we can do it. I think we can.
So trial and error for our first child.
Well, it said.
Telling you, if you want to get
it says
shape for your thing that you're doing, you should kayak.
but the whole
I
point
went
is
swimming on Friday. After I went swimming, that's what years.
so what happens if you
less the girl did.
My boyfriend was a swimmer, so I did one lap and I was like, I can't do this for half an hour. And like immediately I was
Right, it's
sore.
already,
Immediately.
trying to get some of this.
Did it work?
There's 100 pennies in there.
I've been across some bridges that are actually like that. They're enclosed, but most bridges aren't. They're usually open air, and the cars go on top.
Oh, so you know what we could do to build a bridge? Hold the paper like this and paper flip it across. It's just another option.
Yeah, this
Take
is
the,
well,
the.
how much time do we left? 45 minutes? Well, I have two people doing the same. Two groups doing the same. And then,
You could essentially do this, like, yeah, fold it, and then, like, you know what I mean?
So otherwise you could just pay it back. What, 50 pennies? Right, but it's 150.
So there's our error. I feel like I'm not gonna actually sit down. Yeah. I will just stay here Thursday. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna try to get all of it. I did the, all of it? I'll do the critique first.
or at least.
I'm just really working on that. I did the reflection of the cost running. And,
Did we get them all? 100 pennies?
you did the critique. I read through it. I took notes. I sent them. And then, I started doing the lesson plan 1. That's not super short. And then just do 1 basic. So I have to type that in, but I haven't done it.
all right, you got a crush card.
Yeah. I feel like it's just really good.
All right, can you take me a picture right now to finish of your lab? And I want you to, file in our Dropbox for today just for bridge photos. And I want you to call it, picture 1. Take a picture and upload it to our Dropbox. Just put your group numbers, names. You can do the Lincoln group, the high school group, the middle school group, the Wilson Plus group, whatever you want to call it. Because we're going to do a second picture. Second child had air. So, take a picture. Alright, wherever you are, you need to stop working on the bridge. You're going to get more time. You're going to get more time. So what did we learn so far about some of the challenges in building bridges? What are some of the challenges in building bridges?
What about restrictions?
Like what kind?
Like, for example, how far apart the sides have to be?
That's gonna, think about why do you need that. You need that in terms of bridges because literally they're gonna be spanning certain distances, and also in terms of force, you have to have certain kinds of, depending on the construction of your bridge, you're gonna have to have foundations across. I mean, I've been across a lot of bridges in my life and I've watched how they do it. But there are very clear restrictions that you have to follow just according to physics. What did you notice in trying to build a bridge in terms of trial and error and feeling restricted with materials? William? Yep. They don't have tape when they're building bridges. It doesn't exist. You do not want to use adhesives because it doesn't over time stay. You need elements that are not going to with the elements, dissipate. All right, so what I want you to do right now is take out the agenda, and I have several steps for you to follow. You're going to need to have access to a computer, so ideally, if you have 2 computers per group, you can have 2 on one and 3 on the other. But I want you to go to the website on Bridge Basics. Click on each link, and I want you to go through the different kinds of bridges. So the person who's the scribe is going to take notes about the 4 different kinds of bridges, and just do a brief description of each kind of bridge and the pros of them. 2, when you finish that, you're going to go to a virtual force lab. This is so cool. PBS is a virtual force lab because there's no way you can demonstrate some of these in real life. You're going to need to do some of these with a virtual lab. You cannot, compress, metal unless you're in a certain kind of lab. So virtual labs will be your friend, and they're online across the country. There are virtual labs. So I want you, based on the virtual lab, to define forces, loads, materials, and shapes. I want you to try out each section because this is a really cool lab where when you push it, it actually does what it says it is. If it's compression, it's going to compress. Then I want you to do the lab again. After you do those things, I want you to try to build a bridge that is a different bridge because nobody here has done a bridge that can distribute 100 pennies with multi-lanes of traffic. Right now, I think I've had 2 solo lanes of traffic. Right now, you can only have a car going one way. And so bridges have 2 ways or 4 ways. So I want you to think as you're going through this, there is a way to create this bridge with 1 piece of paper that you have multi-lanes of traffic. And in fact, there's a teacher who does a 2-minute video that you can borrow online, but you're not allowed to watch him yet. And then, when you're done with that, you're going to go, we have a bridge crisis in America. Sharon and I have been talking about this, is that there are so many bridges in our country that are on the verge of collapsing. We've already had 2 major collapses. Where are they?
What's in Washington, what's in Minnesota?
Major collapses of bridges. I mean, loss of life, people plunging into the water. And so there is a report card. So I want you to click on the report card so that if you ever wanted to, you could click on the status of bridges around. And then California also, the Department of Transportation, Caltrans, keeps track of all the bridges in California. And you literally can click on a region and go look up bridges. It's crazy. What I wanna know is what can our students do to help how can you use that information to help educate students about potential jobs that they could, if they're interested, pursue? And then the last thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna look at your TPA case, one, and I want you to think of 3 ways you could use a virtual or live interactive teaching. Because some of the things that you want the kids to do can be a virtual lab. It doesn't have to be a lab they do in the class. But we're doing all of them today. So what we're gonna do is, it's 9:45. I'm giving you until 9:45, can you believe it? I'm gonna give you until an hour to work on this. You should get far enough along after an hour. And then at 10:45, we'll talk just for a few minutes, and then you're gonna go work in your class. You're gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna give you an hour to work on. For 15 minutes, you need to plan your skits for tomorrow. And as soon as you plan your skits, you'll go into your classroom management group and work on your classroom management plan. But I need a new bridge. I think you're gonna have a better bridge, and then you're gonna take a picture of that and upload it. But there's plenty for you to keep yourself busy for the next hour.
Yeah, I did. Did you get it?
Does anybody have any questions? This is a great series of workshops, isn't that amazing? They have this all online. I saw a teacher do this in his middle school classroom. I saw this done in 8th grade. I saw an 8th grade classroom do this entire activity.
Jenna G333.
I saw an 8th grade classroom.
I wonder if there's a Jenna G333 who gets all my emails. We get a lot of emails.
So what I want you to do right now is go to the lab.
As if it's that
You're gonna highlight what you're gonna teach.
If you can face it that way,
The force lab and do 2 lab activities, because you're gonna get more ideas going. Go through the 2 lab activities and you will get more ideas. Alright, hold that. Push this side for about
or like that.
Let's go do our little head-off bridges. Because I think you're gonna get more ideas.
Oh, that's okay.
Here, look over here. Yeah, gonna teach you that. So, alright, so let's take a look at that.
What are the paper clips? We like the paper clips or something that we should be using
Ooh, there's another piece of chocolate.
more effectively. We can do this 5. They use them
Let's just go through these.
for.
Thank you for the
I get the good races. I was asking what website
Go on my agenda right here and it gives you the link.
on it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine.
It's a really cool site. It just has a lot of things that you can click on, definitions, and it has a lot of terms. So you can become familiar with the ideas of bridges.